Hello, Mr. Wendelin. This is Jordan Romero here. I'm just here to answer some of your students' questions. Finally found some time to do so. Hope it's better late than never. Anyway, let's go on. First question is, where are you from? I'm from Big Bear Lake, California, originally. I currently live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I moved here after graduating high school, and I currently attend Westminster College to pursue environmental studies and skiing as well. Um, why do you enjoy climbing? I guess what I loved most out of it was like getting outdoors and I also grew up in the mountains, and I just really felt like I was in my element being up there and being like super remote, and just kind of like also like fighting against like all of these natural elements that, and I don't know, you just feel so small amongst like something so superior, and to stand on top of it one day, it was just like definitely the drive. So that's what I enjoyed most out of it. Where are you right now? Like I said, currently in Salt Lake City. I'm mostly skiing at Park City Mountain Resort and Alta as well. So that's kind of where I'm spending most of my time nowadays, and working a ton as well. Do you have any brothers? I don't have a brother. I do have one little sister. Her name is Michaela. She's currently 13 years old, and she lives in San Diego, California. How old were you when you started climbing? I was about 10 years old when I started climbing. Actually, about 9, to be honest. That's when I first started training for Mount Kilimanjaro. So so as soon as I turned 10, I summited Mount Kilimanjaro, like right after I turned 10. So it was right around then. So from then until when I kept climbing mountains was like, I don't know, I was 16. So for about 7 years or so was when I started climbing mountains, and then I started skiing a little bit more now. So, and that I've been doing my whole life since I was like 18 months old, super young. So it's second to walking for me at this time. What do you enjoy doing in your free time? I'm like any other normal guy my age right now. I love to just kick it with friends, hang out. During the summertime, I love to hike, and pretty much in the summertime, hike, swim, mountain bike, do whatever I can to stay active. Most of the time, I'm just working a ton at the same time. And other than that, during winter, I'm skiing literally every day. I have a night job, so that goes pretty hand in hand. So that's kind of what I'm doing in my free time. I like to listen to music, edit videos that we shoot up at the mountains, and the list goes on. No matter what, I'm staying outdoors, so as much as I can. What do you like travel compared to climbing? Travel's interesting because it definitely like really wears you out for sure, and I think that's definitely the coolest element of the whole adventure itself, including climbing. Traveling is way cool. Definitely something I really gotta keep doing. I'm hoping to backpack somewhere I've never been to this summer, and yeah, just traveling around the world just gives you a whole new perspective on life and just the world we live in, and just seeing all these different cultures and tasting all these different foods is really mind-blowing, and it's really good stuff to share with in terms of stories and or food that you bring back to other people who didn't get to share the same experience with you. So compared to climbing, I mean, yes, I like traveling, but I don't know. I like, even though I'm not climbing nowadays all that much, I'm definitely trying to travel as much as I can in the future. Which mountain do you think had the best view? That's a really good question. I would probably have to say Everest for sure, just because it was a view that I was just looking forward to so much, and Just something that, and it was a view that just made you see, hundreds and hundreds of miles out in the distance, and it was really phenomenal standing on top of that finally, and being up at the highest point on Earth and knowing that there's nowhere else that you can go higher except for a plane, pretty much. So I thought that had the best view. What was it like to climb in Antarctica? Antarctica was by far the coolest place I've ever been to on Earth at this point. It was like a whole nother mountain, or like a whole nother planet. And it just, down there, it's so remote. There's no permanent civilization or settlement with humans. It's all mostly research camps and expeditions that are coming in and out of some of those areas. And there's various camps like based around the continent. But yeah, where we went to was like not even 1% of the entire continent. The entire continent of Antarctica has as much landmass as Europe and Australia combined. So that just gives you an idea of like what's, unexplored and what's untouched down there, and how much potential that continent has to, I don't know, just for discovering more of it. And I don't know, it's just the coolest place in the world for me, for sure. Absolute winter wonderland. How many more mountains do you plan on climbing? That's a good question. Currently, from a financial standpoint, it's a little more difficult to get the funding for these adventures and to continue with them. And I mean, if I did have the funds, I'd definitely want to keep traveling and such. But to be honest, right now, skiing and going as fast as I can down the hill and hitting all these different features, I've definitely found more of a love for that, just because it's more constant mental preparation for what you're about to hit, and judgment as well on whether or not a line or a feature is good enough to hit. And that's what I think is fun, and I'm out doing it every day with my friends too. So with mountains, I was mostly doing it with my parents and not so much with my friends. So as of right now, I mean, right now I'm still trying to fulfill the goal of reaching the highest point on each state in the United States. So that I'm hoping to continue. I have 15 down right now and 35 to go. So hopefully I'll come out to Kansas sometime, and some other states, especially in the Midwest and on the East Coast, that are just kind of harder to make time to go travel in between and whatnot. What else do we have here? Did you ever have second thoughts about climbing Mount Everest? Good question. I definitely did. I did, there were definitely times when it's just so cold and miserable on the mountain where I'm just what am I doing here? But, with all the money and the time and the training and just everything that we invested into it, we wanted to make sure that we, as safely as possible, just put in all of our effort and try to just do our best to reach the summit. And, only at the time when we encountered an avalanche right in between Advanced Base Camp and Camp 1 on the north side of Mount Everest was when us as a team kind of did have second thoughts, because we were okay, this is a really, really sketchy zone, and we're not really sure if we're comfortable to go through that again, because there was still a bunch of ice hanging and pretty much ready to plummet and collapse at any moment. So luckily they just 2 days later changed the route up and above, so that gave us the green light pretty much. But yeah, I had second thoughts about climbing every mountain just during the most miserable times, and standing at the summit, and especially coming back safely from one of those trips, just makes you feel so much more accomplished, and it's just worth more than anything else. So yeah, that's the answer for that. Describe how it felt to reach the summit of Everest, the sensation of being on top of the world. Reaching the summit of Everest was absolutely incredible. Not just like physically standing up there, but mentally as well. You're just, like I said, on top of the world and just enjoying the craziest view for sure. I remember when I was standing probably about 300 feet away from the summit, waiting for my parents and the rest of the team, my dad, Karen, and the rest of the Sherpas. And we, and right there, like when I just saw it in my eye, I just like walked fast. I walked pretty fast, like towards the summit, and my excitement just went absolutely through the roof. I was up there, like it was a pretty emotional time too. We pulled out the satellite phone and made some phone calls to our public relations people to like let the Associated Press and some mainstream media know that we've done it and that we've successfully reached the summit, because at the time I became the youngest to climb the 7 summits. Like I broke the record, so that was definitely something big going on. And then calling my mom from the summit was pretty awesome too. Like I was definitely ready to go home at that point. So I knew like from there I was like, all right, like sweet, I'm gonna be home in probably about a little over a week. So that's kind of what the sensation of being on top of the world was. Like I was definitely ready to go home at that point, but it was sick. I absorbed every second of it that I could, and love telling the story about that. How cold is it on Everest? On the summit, it was, if I recall, it was probably around like negative 30, 35, possibly even 40. We did not exactly measure the temperature, but it was dang cold for sure. Really, really cold. So that's my best guess. Temperatures at their coldest, like during the gnarliest windstorms, were probably around negative 50 or negative 60 even. That's just a wild guess, but it's definitely really common for those temperatures to reach that low, especially on that mountain with a weather system of its own. How long did it take you to climb Everest? It took about 48 days. Took about like 51 total with like getting back down to base camp. So that was how long it took. And then from the time I left home until the time I got back was exactly 2 months. We left April 5th and came back June 5th. Did you make any friends on Everest? We sure did. We had a lot of other teams that were on the mountain, and we definitely took advantage of visiting some of their tents and having tea with them. And a lot of these teams and climbers just come from all around the world, and it's pretty cool just to part of that like cultural exchange that you get to do. Like there was a Russian team, there was a South African team, a British team, and the list goes on and on. Chinese team that was doing a big cleanup on all the human waste up on the mountain, and yeah, it was cool. I mean, we definitely made some lifelong friends, and I feel like a lot of the climbers there definitely had like lower expectations for me at first before they even met me, because I mean 13 is pretty dang young to be up there and wanting to climb Everest. And then after like sitting down and talking with them, and for me, like just I tend to have a really humble personality, and a little more mature, especially like just being around adults. So definitely played out really well. And they said, yeah, you're welcome to come visit us at the country. We'd love to host you. And so yeah, that we definitely did make friends up there. Did you get hurt climbing the mountain? I never got hurt climbing any mountain, to be honest. I've never broken a bone or have gotten injured. Definitely have a really big, a pretty built body, and a pretty big, like, just body mass in general, that can endure a lot of impact, especially even nowadays skiing and just climbing mountains in general. So, or just any of my day-to-day activities. So, it was definitely harder for me to get hurt, but definitely not impossible. But luckily, knock on wood, never got hurt climbing any mountains. Maybe a scrape or two, but that's about it. Did you learn to speak any other languages while climbing Everest? I just pretty much used I can't memorize off the top of my head now, but I just remember learning like the casual greetings of Chinese and Nepali as well. Namaste is a common greeting that we would say to our Sherpas and any of the other locals or even any other teammates, just because it brings like good spirit, and it's part of the Buddhist culture. And but yeah, I didn't like fully learn a language, but you communicate the best that you can, and there's an abundance of people up there that can speak really good English, so definitely don't have any difficulties communicating. How could you stand all the dead bodies? That's a pretty interesting question. I've been asked that quite a bit, and I think, when I first saw like some of the bodies, it's just something that you like pass by, and you pay your respects, and you and your team kind of look at each other, and you see that as an example of pretty much how not to end up or what not to do, basically. So it definitely like just rang an alarm in our head to stay strong and not to make any mistakes, especially up at the death zone and up in super high altitude where your body is just already slowly shutting down as you're up there. So it's a place that you got to get in and out of like as fast as you can. And seeing those dead bodies was just like an awakening, saying like, well, let's not end up like them, with all due respect. But yeah, it was definitely a bit graphic for me at that point when I was younger. But at the same time, it's not that. The bodies themselves weren't that graphic. I mean, they were mostly frozen over with snow, but knowing that that's an actual human body was pretty crazy for me at that age. How were you able to continue up the mountain knowing that you could die? I mean, we always knew that death and getting hurt were some other risks that, associated risks along with climbing the mountain, but so is riding your bike to work or crossing any street. There's risks in your day-to-day life too. And, I kind of figured like this would probably be the coolest way to die, like if we were to. And, I'd rather be up here and die rather than going, doing something regular in my day-to-day life. But, the day could be any day, and it's about just going out and living it up for sure. But unfortunately, we were definitely criticized by a lot of news media, especially my parents, just for like taking me up that stuff, which was pretty dumb to, compare that to, I don't know, like just day-to-day life, which they think is safer and just more normal and what I should be doing at my age. And I was just kind of like, screw that. Like, this is, this is, first of all, this is all my idea, and this is the coolest stuff I'd way rather be doing than being at home and doing nothing like with my friends. So, yeah, it's a good question. How do you go to the bathroom on the mountain and not get frostbite? So, going to the bathroom on Everest, that's a question I definitely get asked all the time. Up on Everest, you, up until a certain point, like up until like halfway up the mountain, you're basically like using an outhouse like tent with a bucket and a bag over it that you're pretty much just sitting over and doing your business in. So, and you take out all the trash too. Like you pack out all of your waste too. You're not to leave a single trace up there. And to not get frostbite, going to the bathroom and getting frostbite was not something I necessarily worried about, but yeah, when it's super cold outside, you definitely don't want to go out and pop a squat. But hell, it's definitely I don't know. You won't get frostbite, I don't think. But also for that reason, you tend to not go to the bathroom, especially like doing a number two, like for a long time, just because of that, and just because of that mentality, because you don't have like a regular toilet like you do at home. So, but you get used to it because you're living up on the mountain for like 2 months. How many of the 50 states have you climbed the highest of yet? How many do you have left? I answered that earlier. I'm at 15 states right now and 35 left to go. Last one I climbed was Mount Hood in Oregon, and that was back in 2013. Not sure what my plan is this year, but I'm hoping to definitely get some more mountains out of the way in the Rockies and as much in the West Coast, and get all the hard ones out of the way first before I'd have to road trip around the rest of the country and make time to reach all the other smaller high points in the Midwest and on the East Coast. So, but hopefully I'm visiting your guys' state sometime in the near future. These guys were good questions. Thank you, Lad Wendelin, for having me answer these questions. And enjoy the rest of your guys' day, and do good in school. Have a good one.